My name is Jeanette Reyes. I'm a morning anchor for Fox 5 DC. Thank you. I guess we got a couple viewers here. I'm also a new mom. I had my baby girl Isabella 11 weeks ago today.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing.
And I go back to work in a couple weeks. So I'll still be waking up at 4 in the morning, I guess. But I'm so glad you guys are joining us for this panel. I'm hoping that you guys have enjoyed the other panels and sessions so far today. I do want to talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the name of this panel. Natasha suggested the name, and I said, I guess we can make it work. We've got some news anchors, some women here in media. My husband and I, a few weeks ago, shot a video reporting on what is motherhood and parenthood, from diaper explosions to spit ups to waking up every hour of the night. I'm sure you all know what that's like. And a lot of parents could relate. So I'm hoping that we can continue the conversation today, continue the transparency. This conversation will be go a little deeper. You'll laugh, maybe you'll shout a couple amens. And I'm hoping that in the end, like a lot of the other sessions that we've had today, that you'll feel less alone, right? That you'll identify with some of the women here and also feel empowered. So with that said, I want to introduce some of the ladies here. I'll do the introduction again. I know we just did it a few seconds ago, but I want to start here with Julie Wilson with Cosmopolitan, beauty editor at large at Cosmopolitan. Adriana Hopkins, anchor at WJLA ABC 7. Monica Alba, she's the White House correspondent for NBC News. Tori Alamaze.
Yes.
See, it's not Alamaze, Alamaze.
Alamaze, thank you.
She's an author and artist. Let's give them a round of applause. So I'll start with you, Adriana. Just briefly share a little bit about your motherhood journey.
And Tamar, thank you, Jesus.
And Tamar, I'm so sorry. Tamar, y'all know Tamar Braxton. Singer, entertainer, reality show personality.
The Tamar Braxton.
In fact, you know what?
You didn't need an introduction.
In fact, Tamar, I'll start with you. So if you could share a little bit about yourself and your motherhood journey, please.
For those who don't know, because I put my motherhood journey on television, and the reason behind that was because I was so afraid. I had a lot of challenges becoming a mother. I had gone through IVF, and as a result to that, God saw fit for me to have a miracle baby. And my pregnancy, I worked the entire time of my pregnancy until maybe like a week and a half before I was induced. And so the only thing that I really wanted to do was eat, praise him. Food tastes so good to me then. And I just wanted to work because I felt like when my baby came, I was going to miss everything that I worked hard for. And I don't know if you working mothers ever felt like when you get to the point of where you want to go in your career and then you get pregnant, it's like, oh my God, my life is getting ready to change and I'm going to miss everything that I worked my face off for. And so I did that. I worked until I couldn't work, literally couldn't work anymore. And after I had my baby, because I had that mindset, I went back. You went back pretty early, right? Are you back? Because you look amazing. I guess this is work.
Couple weeks, the clock is counting down.
I went back 2 weeks after I had my son, and I was in the position to be able to bring him with me while I worked. And up until, he became, at the age that he didn't want to be around me like that, because now he's 9 now, you can believe it. He has his own friends, own life. Now here comes the mommy guilt of it all, because I still have, the same schedule. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to battle where I fit in the new motherland and to where, allowing my son to be an individual. And so that's tough. And the only way that I am able to get through that is to have a constant schedule. And I started off every day as if I'm dropping him off at school, no matter where I am in the world. I still wake up, I still call him in the morning, I still have breakfast with him in the morning. I still cover him before he goes to school. And so for me, being a working mother has been the biggest blessing, because you have to stop and make sure you smell the roses. And your children make you do that because of the schedule that you have to create. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I love that as an opening. Adriana, I'll go with you next. Just briefly share what your motherhood journey has been. Thank you, Tamar.
So it's been a lot. Yeah, we had a call prior to this panel, and I've been through fibroids. Prior to getting pregnant, I had a myomectomy. One thing I do is talk a lot about my fibroid journey, because I think it's something that we feel very alone and isolated about. When in the Black community, 80% of women by the time they're 50 have fibroids, so it's actually pretty abnormal if you don't. So that was part of my journey. It was terrifying, but got through that. Then I had unexplained infertility, which was just frustrating because I need a problem so I can have a solution. Yeah. Unexplained was just annoying. So I said, I don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's do IVF. We did IVF. I have 2 babies now. My daughter, Steele, just turned 3 on Friday. And my son, we were just talking about which one is a terrorist. My 1-year-old son is the terrorist. Okay. He's about 16 months, Lennox, but it's been a whirlwind. I was telling you all before, I had mental health issues that nobody talks about. Pre-labor, I had 2 high-risk pregnancies. I had a really difficult labor with my son. I had PTSD after my son. Y'all, I've been through it. Yes. Well,
you don't look like what you've been through, okay?
Okay. That's that good melanin.
Amen.
But I do a lot of talking about my journey, because I think that a lot of times women can feel isolated and alone. And late at night when you're up alone breastfeeding and it's just you, that's when my thoughts would get to me and my postpartum would really kick in. So even with my new mom friends now, Jeanette, I told you, look, I'm up at 2 a.m., I'm up at 3 a.m., text me, call me, we'll get through it. But I like to talk a lot about it so that people don't feel alone.
And she walks the walk, y'all, because I've hit her up a couple times. In hindsight, I'm like, did I really ask her that?
But yes, you did. And I said, did I really say that? And yes, I did.
Having a support system, as you know, is huge. Tori, I'll go with you next.
Hi, I'm Tori Alamaze, and I'm so happy to be here. I have an amazing miracle child like Tamar. She's 7. Her name is Alset Sophia. And just a quick question. How many women have been diagnosed with or have experienced preterm births or incompetent cervix? Raise a hand. So according to CDC, 1 in 10 pregnancies ends with preterm births. So in 2007, I had my son at 6 months. He didn't take a breath. In 2011, I had my boy-girl twins. They didn't take a breath. I had them at 5 months. And so I had a procedure that was not known to me then, but I found out later, called transabdominal cerclage. Prior to that, I had all the other cerclages that didn't work. McDonald's, Sherrod Carr, transvaginal, it didn't work. I still lost my children. And so when I had the transabdominal cerclage, it gave me the highest success rate of having a full-term, healthy pregnancy. I don't have to be on bed rest. I don't have to have progesterone shots. I don't have to be upside down, Trendelenburg position. So I'm here because of my lived experience. I'm here because I want to be able to help the family, to help the women who have had preterm births and feels like there's no answer, there's nowhere to go. I want you to have different conversations with your doctors about HSG exams or hysterosalpingogram, which checks the womb, and have conversations with your doctors about transabdominal cerclages. Because once you have that put in place, it's a procedure just like a C-section. When you have it put in place, the chances of you having a full-term, healthy, divine pregnancy and delivery significantly increases. And it's why I sit here today with my eyes lit and my heart full because of my daughter and because of the transabdominal cerclage. Praise Him.
Yes. Amen. Julie, I'll have you go next.
I'll be short, but I have 2 lights. Orion, who's 8 years old, and Nadir, who is 1.5, 20 months. And my husband and I were successful in getting pregnant with our first son 6 months into trying. And then we knew we wanted to keep the parenting window kind of short. We were like, okay, after, Orion gets to be about 3, we'll start again. And my body was just like, no. And I had 3 miscarriages between 11 and 13 weeks, and one which they call a chemical miscarriage. And so it was hard. I think we don't talk about miscarriages a lot in general. They are very, very common. But it was a lot of anguish and frustration, and not only for myself, for my husband, and our families, because we were like, we're having a baby. And I wasn't telling the world, but we would tell close, our parents, and everyone would get excited, and then we'd be sad. And it was a lot of also personal, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my body? And so it was really tough. And I also felt very selfish in that moment too, knowing that I had already had a child. And who am I to ask for another? And who am I to be upset and frustrated when I had friends who couldn't even get pregnant, let alone carry a pregnancy, to term. So a lot of different emotions, but thankfully we were able to have our second son, one quarantine night. The wop was whopping. And so it was just, and I think, and also I say that to say, I also was in a place where I wasn't traveling to work. I did not have the stress I had a very stressful job before the pandemic hit. And I know for a fact that not moving out of that job, not having to go into work, and not having that stress, also my body was like, okay, we can do this. So,
speaking of pandemic babies, who here has pandemic babies? Yeah? Oh. Okay. She's repping for all the pandemic babies. There you go. All right, Monica, you next.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My son Denver is just about 7 months old, so I'm really the baby of the Baby News Network here. I have so much to learn from you wonderful mothers. But I was very fortunate. I work for a company that offers up to 6 months of paid family leave.
Wow.
Which is incredible, outstanding. And
are there job openings? I'm sure everyone. Who has their
Comcast,
resume?
NBC News. Come get in touch. And it only made me, in my gratitude, feel that much more passionate and, frankly, outraged at times about the lack of that for so many moms in this country across a variety of industries. And I think that's just such a part of the conversation that I feel so blessed I had that time with my son. It felt even at the end of that, like, what is enough time and how do you quantify it? So I only went back to work about a month ago. I'm still completely adjusting to what that reality is like. But it really has made me feel like the time I do have with my son is even more pure and special and wonderful from those long days at the White House or on the road covering the president. But when my son was born, he came out not breathing. He went to the NICU immediately for a matter of days, and then we were so fortunate to take him home. But I just also think a part of this larger discussion is normalizing that births look so different and preparing for the unexpected, and that it's not necessarily going to be that rosy, bring the baby onto your chest and having those magical moments. That happens, of course, but it's not what happens every time. And I remember feeling like shame and like we had done something wrong or something had gone wrong. And then just the COVID of everything. I was pregnant all throughout COVID in a job where I had to go in person. And that was terrifying sometimes when there wasn't enough that we knew. And of course, then the vaccines came out, and knowing that those were safe for pregnant women, that was a huge part of feeling a little bit better about that. But it's just been such a whirlwind last couple of years, but feeling so lucky to share in the experience here now.
All right, thank you, Monica, for that. I'll be asking some questions here. I'll direct it at one person, but if someone else wants to chime in afterward, feel free to do so. We'll try to keep it brief since our time is fairly...
Your story.
Oh, my story? Y'all don't want to hear?
I want to hear.
Okay.
Share.
I wanted to make this about the panelists. I also did IVF. I know a couple of the ladies did here too. I have PCOS. I've known that for well, I had a feeling something was wrong for many years since I was a young teen. And eventually a friend of mine urged me to go and get checked out a few years ago. So PCOS, we went through IUI. It was a failed IUI. We did IVF, and fortunately, we were successful in that. And the baby came 3 weeks early on my way to work, right before I went on air. And I picked up my husband. He had to cut his newscast short. He was on air at the time. And we drove to the hospital, and it was also, I'm glad you mentioned that, it was also not you hear that people's journey and the way they give birth and what that experience is different, but I guess you maybe don't expect it to happen to you. So for us, she had ingested fluid, and they took her right away. I'm thinking they're going to put her on my chest. I'm wondering what's going on. And they rushed her to the NICU, and she was there for a couple of days. And there was some guilt about that, especially because I felt, afterward, I asked my OB, and I said, was I supposed to be with her in the NICU the whole time? Because I had heard someone tell me, why weren't you there with her the whole time? Or why weren't you there immediately after? And so I felt really guilty about that. And she told me, you have to take care of yourself. There have been women who go and end up fainting because they're not ready to get up and, walk over and be with their child. So that was an experience. But having a support system, I mentioned it before, has just been absolutely incredible, including my husband and mothers that I've been able to text and ask questions in the middle of the night. So it's been, all in all, I would say it's been a wonderful experience. And the biggest lesson learned for me is that everybody's journey is different. And make sure if the support system doesn't come to you, go find it. Right? That was one thing I was fortunate to have people come to me, but getting connected with groups has been absolutely life-changing for me. It's been really key. That said, we'll get into some of the questions here. Adriana, we were talking about this earlier. I mean, this is a continuation of a conversation we had earlier about finding time for yourself and not feeling guilty about it. Right? Because sometimes for some women, it feels like a lose-lose. You spend time with them and you really want time for yourself. You spend time alone and you feel guilty about it. How do you do that?
So I look at my husband, and when he's going to play golf, I'm like, he doesn't feel guilty at all. Why do I feel guilty? So seriously, I don't think there's a dad guilt, and if a dad has guilt, then thank you for sharing our journey. But I do look at him like, y'all don't feel guilty at all, so I need to stop feeling guilty. I don't necessarily know that there's such a thing as work-life balance, and it's not work-life, it's work-life balance. Work is its own thing that is an adjustment when you go back to work and you're figuring out pumping and where to pump and how to incorporate that in your busy schedule. Life changes as you know it. Anything that you thought you had time for before, like you want to go to the grocery store, you want to go get your nails done. Now you're having to factor in putting a kid in a car seat, taking him out, doing this. Does this kid have snacks? Does this kid have a bottle? Do they have a change of clothes when they have a blowout? And to me, I'm still working on the balance of that. I don't know if I'm going to find it. I'm just being super honest and transparent here. I'm still working to get there. And I was telling you all in the back room there that I don't know if my husband was always needy and I didn't realize it, or if because now I have two people who need me, everybody needs me. I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out how to tend to my two kids and my husband and myself and not feel guilty about all of it. And not be at the bottom.
Yes.
Because women put everything, we are the last thing on our to-do list. And so I'm working through all of that. I didn't answer your question at all, but I'm being honest with you guys. I am working through it.
I like to add a little to that. I do know my daughter's 7, yours is 1 and 3, and it does change. There's the seasons, it changes fast. Well, the thing I started to implement in my life with my daughter was born in D.C. I'm from Atlanta. I'm an AT alien, but we moved here 2014 to 2019. So she was born here. In D.C., you start school at 3, right? So she started school at 3. That's a whole new thing, right? So I realized, okay, I have to get up, get her ready, breakfast, take her to school, PTA meetings, pick her up. Okay, now she's home. She needs all of my attention. I found that I was losing me, my autonomy, myself, my purpose, my dreams, who am I, what I want to do, my husband as well. So I was complaining to another DC amazing, brilliant mom friend, who also has a little ones. And she told me, well, Tori, I've been reading this book called Miracle Morning, and I get up at 5 a.m. and I meditate, I visualize, I write. And when she said that to me, and I was like, she got a newborn and a 2-year-old. How is she doing? But it inspired me, so I ordered the book immediately. When I tell you, please write this book down, Miracle Morning by Elrod. It really shifted my life because I would get up at 5. It's not cute. It's not cute at first, but I started practicing it, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. I started to see things shift in my own life. By 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I had done so many things in the mornings. And most importantly, I was able to fill my well. I refuse to be a mother that operates on fumes and that operates on E. So that practice started, 5 years ago? And I still practice rising early. I get up before everyone else. The house is quiet, meditation, reading, and all just 10 minutes each. But it has shifted my life. I've been able to manifest things. I've been able to do things scared and boldly because of this practice. So that's been helpful for me.
All right, Julie, I'll ask you this question. How have you been able to set boundaries? So let's say you want to do all this, but maybe the husband's, nagging. He wants this, he wants that. The kids, we already know they're going to do that. How do you put your foot down to set boundaries? Are you still figuring that out?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. My husband is very long-suffering, and he is an amazing partner. Because, I always tell him, you know who you married. I have, a very different world and lifestyle than he does. He is actually more of the home caretaker. So he has more of a flexible schedule. He works for himself. I, like many Black women, am head of household as far as the breadwinner, I'm health insurance for my family. I'm all the things. So that puts an extra pressure on me. I remember I blew up the other weekend because I just felt the stress of I have to do all the things and have to keep it together, but also the peace of knowing that I have a partner that allows me to do that, right? I have 2 jobs, 2 kids, and only 1 husband. I keep telling him we could add another, but
have a throuple,
just to balance it out. Talk about work-life balance. We can just balance it out a bit. I don't know, but I'm just it's that stress. But I think he knows because it's not that I do more for the family. It's not that, because he is holding it down. I'm here right now and he's home with 2 children. And he didn't complain. He knows this is the work. This is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm a storyteller. I need to go out and tell stories and to help people by doing that. So he understands. But then I get to be spread eagle on the bed tonight at the hotel. Without him and 2 babies in the bed. So I do also I'm working, but I also get my me time. I was literally scrolling on the train here this morning, where am I going to eat? And what do I do? I have all this time. Meanwhile, I'm getting on a train tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So it's I have less than 24 hours, but I'm how do I pack in all the things? I was I'm going to go to this cocktail bar. I will have cocktails by myself. I'll let y'all know if you want to join me. But I will literally be at the bar by myself, drinking and scrolling Instagram. So
I love that for you.
I'll drop my pin. Y'all can come and meet me if you want. It's just
the American
real.
mom dream. Yeah. Tamar, I wanted to ask you, because I think you have the largest following here, switching to social media. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, all of us have shown our children on social media, on Instagram?
Yes.
I was creeping on y'all's IG, so, okay. Tamar,
Yes.
how did you go about making the decision to let the world see your son, not just on social media either? How did you make that decision?
I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm still trying to process what sis said over here, living the American dream. Am I doing wrong with my life?
Girl.
Oh, you're just so goddamn carefree. Like, what are you doing?
24 hours. Only 24
She
hours
is
of
a
this.
superhero. It's a super. Dun, 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 dun. What the hell? Whoa. Okay, she asked the questions about Instagram. Let's get back to it. Here is the thing. I think keeping your kids off Instagram in 2022 is doing a disservice to them, because the trajectory of where things are going is definitely data-based, you know, and you don't want to like, I want to protect my kid, but you're not really protecting them. You're kind of setting them up for failure, you know, because there's a lot of bullying that comes online, but when it comes to 13, 15, 10, they experience that. And so I think like having them kind of experience that a little early, I know it sounds crazy, kind of gives them the tough skin that they need to have. But when it's time for them to be on Instagram without so much supervision, I try now to monitor my son's Instagram a whole lot about what he posts. I delete, I blocks, so don't try me. It is definitely connected to mine, but I can't keep him from it. You know, because his peers are on it, and his peers they don't share the same type of lifestyle that he does when it comes to social media. People are not attacking him for things their mother has said or seen on television. And my son goes through that, and so I have to keep a watchful eye. And I just feel like because a lot of business comes from social media, that, you know, when your child is born, you should create a page. And you create a page of, like, you know, pictures and stories and things like that, just to get them started with their following. So when they do become of age, it's easier to, you know, to have following. You know what I mean? Because people do be bullying people about their following. I just learned that. I didn't know that. Like kids in high school and kids in middle school, I don't know if you have, like, you know, a lower volume of followers, they talk bad about you. I didn't know that.
Times have changed. Who would have predicted this 20 years ago, huh?
It's true.
I'm curious, show of hands, who has shown their child on their social media and their child is under the age of 12? Okay. Who is not showing their child's face on their social media? Okay. Who doesn't have social media?
Who's under a rock?
Who has peace of mind by not being on social? Okay. Anybody else want to chime in? How did you go about deciding whether or not you'd show your child's face on social?
I just wanted to really celebrate. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, my kids are cute. Everybody should see them.
That's what I was going to say. They're real cute.
And it brings some joy. I think the funny thing too is I love looking at photos of my parents when I was a baby, and baby photos, and it's like we're not printing and making physical albums as much anymore, and Instagram sort of is that. And I have this vision of my kids like years from now looking at that, pulling up the old Instagram website, like, look at mom with me at the White House when I was 2 years old. I don't know. Who knows what that will be like. Instead, it'll be like a beamed hologram of like some crazy thing.
You just like want to show them off.
I think it's sweet, right? And it's honestly in a world where there's sometimes in news, there's not much to share that is uplifting. That is one thing that like is sweet and can bring a smile. But then I do feel like the Today Show, we're doing stories all the time about the dangers of that and putting too much information out there. And so there is a balance, I think.
What do you not share? Adrienne, I don't know if you want to, or I don't know if you wanted to chime in.
Oh, no, I mean, my kids are 3 and 1, so they're just cute and chunky and delicious. And so, to your point, I think that it is uplifting for people to see that at times. And But I don't know at what point I would scale that back. I'm just not at that crossroads yet. But Tamar, I get what you're saying. I think that it's some ways you would do your child a disservice in this day and age when Instagram is the jam. You don't want your kid to suddenly pop up at like 12 or 13 and not know how to navigate, not know, who's safe and who's not. So when I get to that bridge, I'll cross it, but I'm not there yet, so I'm just chilling.
And the only thing I would add with social media, I'm seeing this a lot with accounts that you follow who do portray a more realistic reality of motherhood.
Sure.
So much more worth it, right? I mean, if you're just posting about only the sunshine and bubbles and loveliness of a newborn, that's really not capturing a lot of what having a newborn is too, right? So I always try to keep that in mind because you don't want to be portraying something that just isn't reflecting what most people are actually living through.
I was going to say too that I really love following mothers or people who are parenting when they're just very vulnerable and very real, and I try to do that myself. I talk a lot about body image after, fourth trimester, which is life until we leave. No, it is. I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone asked me if I was pregnant, but I'm serious. My body is different. I have diastasis recti. I still have a belly from my 2 pregnancies, and I talk a lot about that because I want people to not feel alone in that space that you're now navigating a new body. This is an injury that I sustained while giving life.
That's
right? And
really
this is
profound way
not
of putting
something
it.
that you can work off. It is something that needs to be repaired. It's not covered by insurance. I was just telling my sister, Lisa Price, I'm scared to go under. I've never had major surgery. So even if I did have the money, I don't know if I would want to do it if it's something that I could live with. And if, God forbid, I passed away doing it. So also it's about speaking to that community of people who might be in the same place as I am and learning to love your new self.
I love that. Yeah. Tori, I'll ask you this. What has been the single most important resource that you had that helped you through after you gave birth?
She was born in Washington, D.C. I was new here, and I lived in Brooklyn, and I was fortunate. I didn't really know a lot of people, but I was fortunate that my community was full of families, moms. Most of us were pregnant together. One of the moms was a mommy and me yoga instructor. One of them was a fit instructor. So really, after I had my daughter at 3 months, we were at mommy and me yoga. I was working out with the babies, breastfeeding. I breastfed for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
5 years. And I was so fortunate to have that support. I was so fortunate for me because I had 3 losses. I just felt like it was a gift that I was able to feed my daughter in that way. And now she can tell you hi in 9 languages, count to 10 and 5, and she speaks Spanish. So I like to say that's part of the breast milk process. But yeah, a community, like you were saying earlier, is so very important. Just supporting each other, connection, complaints. Husbands was a lot of complaints in our group, but it's all in fun and love. But yeah, the community is important, and the people around you supporting you is important.
I'm sorry, I have a question. Why did you breastfeed for 5 years?
Because she kept suckling, and it was available. Do not listen to your pediatrician that tells you after 1 year that breast milk has no nutritional value. It's a lie. It's a lie. It was available. It's God's milk. I actually froze some of them when she would have an ear infection. 1 drop, she's done. So it's God's milk. It's a miracle. It was available. And again, Tamar, I had lost 3 babies. I felt so blessed to have the opportunity that it was available to me to give to her. And to this day, she just loves to be around here. She's 7, but she just loves to be, it's home. She told me it was home for her. It feels like home. Wow. Yes,
so beautiful.
You brave as the teeth process for me, sis. Good God Almighty.
5 years.
Wait,
I know. That's,
so I'm 11 weeks into breastfeeding.
What Lisa
First
Price earlier said,
Yeah.
4 years. She did
Oh,
4
wow.
years and 3 months. So we're in a club.
So
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, because clearly you're the expert here, since I'm fairly new. What's the biggest, most important tip that you would pass along when it comes to breastfeeding and continuing the journey, even through a year for some folk?
I tried things like, I did want her to stop at one point. I would do the Band-Aid. It didn't work. She just side-eyed me.
Like, what is this?
Yes, and literally when she was 4 on my nipple, and I looked at her and said, Osset, when are you going to stop? She stopped and said, Mommy, when I turn 5.
Wow.
She did the whole sentence.
Now, did she tell you that in Spanish or?
She didn't say
Mami, ¿cuándo vas a parar?
Swahili.
Some chicken nuggets and titties for me.
She said it in Swahili. But the biggest thing is, I've learned to respect her and her voice. She's brilliant, and I respect her. And so when she said, Mommy, when I turn 5, I just said, okay. And when her birthday came, December 21st, she turned 5. I said, okay, this is the day. And she was in agreement, and it worked. It worked. I feel really lucky that I was one of the people that was able to breastfeed that long. I got snarky comments. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, not you too. I'm astonished.
This is not that.
Not you too.
Because I'm not that girl.
I'm really impressed that, like, it's a lot of work. Breastfeeding is a lot of work.
Well, I worked while she did it.
I get that conversation, but my son was little, and we both looked at each other like, what the are we doing? Like, no, really. So I get that conversation. So I'm just, it's not that.
It was just available.
I just can't believe it. It's
I
amazing.
really feel like I was blessed because of the losses. At least that's what my friends said. Like, I think because of the 3 babies, it's just backed up milk.
Okay.
That's just the conclusion they came to.
No, I do think on a serious note, what I love about that is that you did what you felt was best for your child. Whether you choose to do 3 months, not at all, formula fed,
Absolutely.
or 5 years, to be able to have that confidence in yourself despite the snarky comments and go 5 years is really impressive. I love that. Who here has experienced postpartum depression?
Oh, girl.
Hello.
Yeah? What did that look like for you, Monica?
I think it's sort of people warn you and talk about it, but until you're really in it, it was harder for me to articulate even if I was surrounded by my baby, by my husband, by my mom, those moments where you feel so alone and like no one else can clearly help or understand or make it feel better. And people would try to say like it's temporary, you know, the only way out is through and all those things. And while I think that was true, the thing that helped me the most were fellow moms, like in that moment. It was the people you could text in the middle of the night who were going through it and who would really just, instead of trying to make it better, would say, it really sucks. And you're just in it. You're in it for now. And that it's okay. I mean, that's the other thing. There is so many feelings and you feel so overwhelmed and you need to just take a step back and say, like, I am sustaining human life and that is a lot of work. It is a crazy job. And that's the thing, just going back to work, a couple of people have made comments and I think they don't even really realize what they're saying when they're like, how was your time off? Like, oh my gosh, you're back. You were gone. And like, you're like, time off. I mean, like, it's a very different kind of time on, right? And it is a different part of your brain and body that you're using. But it is the hardest job, no doubt, I have ever had. And it just doesn't end. It's not a job really with an end date, right?
Tamar, I saw you nodding your head. Thank you, Monica. What did it look like for you?
When I gave birth to my son, it just gave very much, I have no connection. And I wanted a connection. And I had watched mommy videos and everybody like, oh my God, my mom is the best thing ever. Oh my God, my baby is my baby. And I wanted that and I expected that and I had none of that. And I thought that something was wrong with me. And it just took a while for me and him to make that connection, sometimes that connection is not immediate. Like, we did the skin to skin, and I'm looking.
Y'all did a lot of looking at each other like,
It was just, like, well, what's going, no, really, because, it was just so new to me. And, I don't know, it just really took a while for that connection to happen. It didn't happen immediately. And as I did research, I found that I wasn't alone. And a lot of people don't speak about it because a lot of women are ashamed of it. And I remember doing an interview, and and the journalist looked at me like, why are you saying this right now? But I was saying it because it was just true. I thought that she was looking at me to give her this amazing love story, me giving birth to my amazing, beautiful, miracle baby, and here we are in this bliss of blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't. It was a constant battle of how am I going to connect to this child?
and then the fear that you feel anxiety because you're like, I got to connect at some point because how am I going to get through this?
Yeah, but one day when I stopped putting that pressure on myself, it happened.
It's interesting as you're saying that, the sigh of relief I can imagine maybe some women are letting out right now, or some people. My sister, who has six kids in homeschools, I was 8 months pregnant, and I was telling her, these women say they fall in love immediately the minute they lay eyes on their child. And I was telling her, like, I'm looking forward to that. She was like, stop. And thank God she told me that. I didn't know I'd have a C-section. I ended up having a C-section. And when you're going through physically recovering, and then there's the mental stuff, there wasn't that connection at first. Had she not told me that, which is why it's so great that you're sharing that in particular, I think it would have been much, much harder on me, because you feel like something is, how can a mother not feel a connection to her child? And I think it lifts a weight off your shoulders. Does anyone want to chime in on the postpartum? Anyone else?
Yeah, so, no one ever talks about, and I had a C-section as well. I knew I would have a C-section because I had a myomectomy prior, and I had 10 fibroids removed. I know. And so my doctor was like, look, it's a C-section. It is what it is. Get over it. Which, fine. My thing was I want a healthy baby. But postpartum for me was the physical recovery of the C-section and feeling like I should be able to get up and move around, and I can pick up this baby and I can do what I need to do, and not being able to do it. It was also loneliness in the middle of the night, just me and my daughter. Your mind just gets to you. I had a lot of intrusive thoughts. And I definitely felt like no matter how much my husband was there, how much my mom and my dad were there, it just was so very isolating. And I was one of those people, I would go to the pediatrician, you know how they have you fill out that survey? I would lie. It'd be like, you cry. No, I don't. Yeah, I do. And so I never was fully diagnosed, but in hindsight, I can say I was in the trenches of postpartum. And I don't feel shame anymore, because speaking to the support system, I feel like postpartum is something that everybody has to some level, and it's abnormal if you don't. So I think I'm at a point now where it's like, yes, I had postpartum with both my kids. It is what it is. It's something that everyone's going to go through. It's totally normal and it's okay. But for me, it was like a lot of intrusive thoughts. That was my issue.
Really quickly, if you feel comfortable, a show of hands, who here has struggled with postpartum depression? Okay. We got to wrap up here. The 50 minutes are almost over. Right, Natasha? Yeah, I know you were going to give me the signal at any point. Is the music going to play or something? We have a lot of stakeholders here, right? A lot of people who can really have an impact on what motherhood and parenthood looks like. What would you say to them that would make a world of a difference in terms of support and resources? Whoever wants to go first, that they could implement or start working to implement.
So I look out into the crowd and I see my sister friend who's a council person, Christina Henderson, right here. This is someone who is constantly advocating for moms and motherhood and IVF benefits and coverage and paid family leave and all of that. And so I would really say These are the things that you have to think about when you go vote. It's not just voting for presidents. It's not just voting for, your senators and representatives. Like, you have to get in your city and know who the people are that you're voting for and know that they're fighting for you in your city, and creating those resources and advocating for you, because it's not until you're in it that you're like, dang, I got to pay for this IVF by myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Isn't that terrible?
Like, it's terrible. Oh, my husband doesn't have paternity leave and I'm doing this alone. Oh, I've got to leave and take maternity leave and I'm only going to get 50% of my pay. These aren't questions and decisions that people should have to deal with when they're bringing life into the world. As Congress and the Supreme Court just showed us, life is allegedly extraordinarily important. So if that is the case, y'all pick it up.
I picked it up.
That's what I'm putting down.
Yes.
So if life is so important, which it is, but if it's so important, I'm going to need you to come through with the support systems to help us get through this life.
And that was that.
Go
that
ahead.
was that.
Go ahead, Tori.
I would offer to the woman who is thinking of getting pregnant, I would offer prior to pregnancy, what I mentioned earlier, getting your womb checked, blockages, fibroids, abnormal structures, endometriosis, all of the things, because those are things, if you don't get it checked and you do get pregnant, it possibly could not be a full-term pregnancy, and you want to kind of, as best as you can, avoid miscarriages, preterm births, those types of things. I will also like to, if you are in the process of going through a diagnosis of incompetent cervix, the one thing that I did was respectfully ask my doctors to stop referring to my cervix as incompetent. My cervix just needs support. Words are powerful, and after all that I have been through, and I wrote a letter to my cervix, literally, dear cervix, because I needed us to be on the same page, seriously. And so I respectfully asked my doctors as they look through my, profile, oh, you're diagnosed as incompetent cervix. No, sir. She needs support. So respectfully speak to your doctors, have them change the language. I understand a lot of those have to do with paperwork and insurance, things like that. But get your womb checked if you're considering being a mom. If you've had some losses, please talk to your doctors about the options of transabdominal cerclage. It is a high success rate of carrying full term and realizing your dream of having a family.
Thank you. Tamar. You still processing?
It's everybody.
It's okay.
Because I really didn't have nothing to add, but okay. Okay.
Or any final words? We can also revisit if you'd like.
I think I would say that everybody's journey is different, and just because your journey doesn't look like your neighbor's doesn't mean that your journey isn't significant. I was watching a YouTube or Instagram, one of these social media videos, where this lady was really, really hurt by the fact that her doctor told her that she was going to be having a C-section and not having a natural birth. And I just want to say to that person who is feeling a certain kind of way about that, or feeling like you're not the mother that you thought you were going to be, and this is not the delivery that you feel like you were supposed to have. When you have a vaginal birth, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. And it's all a process, and when you have a vaginal birth, you don't get a badge. You don't get a Chanel bag, because I was looking for it. You are still, when you have a C-section, you are still giving birth to this amazing life that God has called you to have. And I just wanted to talk to that person. That's it.
Amazing.
Thank you.
It's so true. It's so true. I would say one of the things that I had a lot of anxiety about was like losing myself, right? I actually, when I had my first son, I was working at the Huffington Post, and I remember writing a piece about twerking while pregnant and other mommy-to-be musings, right? Because I was like, can I twerk? I was listening, you know, I'm like on the train going to work,
I'm
pregnant.
gonna follow you. You're amazing. Twerking while you're pregnant.
Because I was on the train, you know, I like ratchet music.
Yes, we do.
And so, you know, I'm pregnant and I'm listening to like 3 6 Mafia talking about, and so I'm like, I'm like, is this going to travel through my womb? And like, what kind of child am I setting this child to be? And I was just also like, but then when I have him, can I still like go out with my friends and take shots and twerk? Like, how do
Valid questions.
But I'm
valid
like,
questions,
how
yeah.
do I stay myself, right? Because I thought I was just going to lose myself. I needed to become this certain type of mother. And I would just say, like, find your village and find the people that understand that and like support you and know who you are and remember who you were before becoming a mother and know you now. I can be Julie the mom. I can be Julie the editor, Julie the wife, Julie the twerker. You know, I don't really know how to twerk because I don't have much of a butt, but I feel like if you just bend your knees and bend over and make a face and move a little
And arch
you
your
know,
back.
Same thing.
you know, you like, if you just do that face, then it looks like you're doing something.
And stick your tongue out.
Well, no, wait a minute. Tamar,
yeah.
I think Tamar's going to give us some lessons because I've seen her twerk on her social media.
My children definitely took my butt. It's okay. They're beautiful. So you have to do modified twerking sometimes. But, you know, find those people that you can be yourself around, because I don't think you need to lose yourself in motherhood or fatherhood. I think you can still be yourself, a modified self per se, but like you don't have to lose yourself. So I would say that if you're feeling that anxiety, because I felt that anxiety that like I was going to completely be a different Julie, a Julie I didn't recognize, and I'm still twerking.
There you are. And is.
That article's still up, right?
Yeah.
The article's
still up.
Okay.
So
All
it's
right.
like, it's called Twerking While Pregnant and Other Mommy-to-Be Musings.
All right, good to know.
Endorse
Monica.
all of that. Endorse it fully. I think it's true. You can read all the books and you can follow all the things, but at the end of the day, there is an innate instinct, I think, from being a mom that just is the guiding light and the guiding force, and that you are enough. You have it. You can do it. You don't need all the other stuff. The input, the support is essential, but at the end of the day, you're going to know what's best to do for your own child. And I just will have to, I do have to say, I think I am a better mom when I'm also a better friend and a better sister and a better wife and a better journalist. And so if you're doing the other parts of your life also as well, that's going to fuel you and make you such a better and more present mom. And I am 100% learning that every day. Every day doesn't go the way you want it to go. But people keep saying, I keep thinking like, I want to be good at this because I want my son to be proud of me one day. But also, I want to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And that is the journey.
Yeah. It's true.
Love that.
It's true.
I will add, advocate for yourself and also advocate for other women, whether you have children or not. The women who went out of their way to reach out to me to answer questions, to say, no, we need to go, I'm going to grab your hand, we're going to go get this done. The women who basically didn't want me to go through what they went through, this belief that just because I went through it doesn't mean you need to, was so powerful for me. This is uncharted territory for a new mom. And it's thanks to other moms who've been through it before that my journey has been much, much easier. Obviously, there are some things you just have to go through yourself. That's just parenthood and motherhood. But be to that person what you would have wanted on your journey when you were on that path. That said, I want to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, ladies, for being transparent and for being honest. You all got a few things out of it, right? I hope you did. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's give them another round of applause.